The Rambam, Tefillas Yom Kippur, Hilchos Tefillah with Tefillas Yom Kippur. We're going to see some things about Tefillah and Tefillas Yom Kippur. The mitzvah say in Torah to pray every day, as it says, "V'avadam es Hashem Elokeichem." In Shmoysi, it says you should serve Hashem Elokeichem. As we have, the Rambam writes in Peirush HaMeir, this is tradition tells us Avodah refers to prayer. In the Torah, it doesn't say how many times a day one has to pray, or what is the text of the prayer, and how many brachas one has to pray. As the Rambam explains in Hilchos Tefillah, if he was somebody that capable and he would say a lot, and if he was somebody who couldn't say that much, he would pray as to the best of his capability, and whenever he wanted. And so too, the number of prayers is also every person according to his capability. Somebody who prays one time a day, and there's those who pray many times. And everybody has to be praying towards the Beis HaMikdash from wherever he is. And that's the way it was eternally so, from Moshe Rabbeinu until Ezra. The Halacha Daled, the Rambam continues, once we were exiled in the days of Nebuchadnezzar, the wicked, then we became mixed into the nations of Persians and Greeks and other nations, and they had children in those lands of the non-Jews, and those children, their language was not good Hebrew, and everyone was mixed in with the other languages, and therefore when he was speaking, he wouldn't be able to speak correctly so in one language, but rather with a combination. And because of that, when one would pray, he would be unable to explain all that he needed, or to praise Hashem the way he should be praised in Hebrew, unless he mixed with it other languages. And Ezra and his Bezdin saw this was the case. They established the 18 brachas that we have on the order. The three first ones, which we say praise to Hashem, which are never changed. Three last ones, which are thanks or to Hashem, which are never changed. And the middle ones, which have all the things that we have to ask for. For every person and for the Tzorchei Tzibur Kulam. They're like the upper pyramid of what we need, in order that the prayer should be set and in our mouths, and we should be able to teach it, and it should be a complete prayer, like those who were able to pray and knew how to pray on their own. Rambam says that this was enacted, that the number of tefillos should be like the korbanos, two tefillos every day, because of the morning offering and the evening offering, afternoon offering, and every day they had a musaf. They had a third prayer for korban musaf, and the prayer that was for the morning is called shachris, until it's for the evening. It'd be in the afternoon is called mincha, and the tefillah that has to do with musaf and the additional offerings is called musaf. In Halacha Bava says, and so they had also enacted that a person should pray once at night, because the limbs of the Tomid of Ben Arbayim would be on the Mizbeach all night. Rambam brings a hint to this from the Posek that it says in Tillim, Erev, evening, B'boiker, morning, B'tzorayim, in the afternoon, Asicho, I shall put forth my speech, Ve'emeh, and I will outcry, V'yishma koili, and Hashem will hear my voice. And Tefillas Av is not an obligation like Shachris or Mincha. And even so, Klal Yisrael has taken the custom in every place to pray Ma'ariv, and therefore it has now become an obligation. Halacha Zayin. And so they also established in Tefillah after Mincha right before the end of sunset on a day of fasting, which they basically we're talking about Ne'ilah. Then Yom Kippur, to add beseechments, requests because of the fast day. That is the prayer which is called Ne'ilah, closing, meaning that's when the gates of heaven close, because you don't say it only close to the time of sunset. I guess the Mishnah writes in the Yerushalmi, Sefer Brochus, there's a disagreement why it's called Ne'ilah. Rav says because of the closing of the heavens. Shmuel says because of the closing of the gates, the doorways of the building of the Beis Hamikdash. The Rambam paskins like Rav, and he explains that it means the closing of the heavenly gates, because we finish with Shkia Zachamo. Why is he passing like Rav? Because in Issa V'Heta, the halacha is always like Rav when he disagrees with Shmuel. Halacha Ches. We find, therefore, every day there are 3 prayers: Ma'ariv, Shachos, and Mincha, and Shabbos, and Mi'anim, and Rosh Chodesh. There are 4, the 3 of every day, and the Musaf, and the Musaf. In Yom Kippur, there's 5, and the 4 that we mentioned before, which is Shachos, Mincha, Ma'ariv, and Arvis, and Tefillas Nila. And even though on the fast days they did Nila, there was no Musafim. Therefore, today, the only day that you have 5 prayers is Yom Kippur. Now, when is the time of Nila? The Shulchan Aruch writes in 623. Time of Tefillas Nila is when the sun, you begin it when the sun is at the top of the trees, in order that you should be able to finish it at the time of sunset. And the Shliach Tzibur has to be careful to be short in his slichas, in order that he should be able to complete it before sunset. But we'll see that when this time and the completion of there's a disagreement among the later commentaries. Magen Avram mentioned the Mishnah Berurah that the sun at the top of the trees means a little bit before sunset, what we call sunset, when the sun is setting. But he says before you sunset, that's talking about the end of the visibility of the sun's rays, which is, according to Rambam, 72 minutes. And that's a little bit before 72 minutes. The Taz explains that the sun is at the head of the trees a half hour before Shkia, in order they should be able to finish it with Shkia. Taz Atzmi writes that that's not the custom of the world, but they finish Nila at the very onset of the stars coming out. The later commentaries, the Shulchan Aruch, the Chayodim, and Matei Ephraim, decide that you finish with the coming out of the stars. The Bach is that you can even continue into the night, even though the ruling is like the first thought. You have to start before Shkia Zacham, or before the sun begins to go down, and you finish it with coming out of the stars. Still, we are noyeg like the Bach, and those who are noyeg like that, we should not admonish them. Perry Beis, the Rambam writes, in the days of Rabbi Gamliel, there were many apostates in Israel, and they would trouble Klal Yisrael, and they would tell them to go away from Hashem. And when HaKadosh Baruch Hu saw that is a greater problem from other things that man needs, then Ezra saw this. It was the time of Rabbi Gamliel. He saw that he and his Bezdin, they enacted another brocha that you should ask before Hashem to get rid of these apostates, and establish in the Machon Nesher another blessing that everyone will be able to say it. Therefore, all the blessings in the Tefillah today are 19 if you count them. In Halacha Hey, He writes that Shabbos and Yom Tovim, you say 7 brachos rather than the full 18 or 19, because you say the first 3 and the last 3, which was always said, and the middle one, which has to do with the day itself, Shabbos or Yom Tov. On Shabbos, you sign off with Kaddish Shabbos, where you sanctify Shabbos, and the holidays you sign off with, you sanctifies Israel and the times, because Israel sanctifies the times. And if it was Shabbos and Yom Tov as well, then the order is Shabbos first, and Yisrael Azmanim, because Shabbos is sanctified by Hashem. We keep Shabbos, and Yisrael sanctifies the time, so then we go Shabbos, Yisrael, and Zmanim. Rosh Hashanah, we sign off Melech HaKol Haaretz, King of all the world, who sanctifies Yisrael and the day of judgment. It was Shabbos. Again, he would say the King of all the world. He was sanctified Shabbos, because again, as we said, Hashem sanctified Shabbos, and Yisrael, he gave the ability to Yisrael to sanctify the time, the Yom HaZikaron, which is sanctified by Klal Yisrael.